Hi guys, I hope you all are doing well and welcome to the next video of this entire series of Exchange Server 2019. In the last video, we talked about accepted domains. We discussed how to add additional domains in accepted domains and how to configure these domains to receive emails from internet. In this particular video, we will be talking about message tracking. We will discuss how to track emails in Exchange 2019. What are the different ways to track emails? We will talk about message tracking logs, and I will demonstrate you how to read or analyze the message tracking logs. Message tracking logs help you to check the email flow activities in on-premise Exchange server. Any email that flows through the mailbox server or the edge transport server, you can trace the activities or the status of that email through message tracking logs. With the help of these logs, you can check if email was delivered, it was failed, or how many emails a user sent to other users. You can track all these activities using message tracking logs. There are multiple ways to track emails in Exchange Server. You can track emails from Exchange Admin Center using delivery reports, or you can run PowerShell commands to get message tracking logs as well. Email is the most important stuff in any organization. Every day we receive and send multiple emails. Whenever an email is sent or received in your Exchange organization, a log file is created for those emails. On your Exchange server, if you go to C drive, program files, Microsoft, Exchange server, version, then transport roles, logs, and go to message tracking. Under this folder, you will see message tracking log. Every file has details of the emails those are sent or received from your Exchange organization. If you check these files have some naming convention and every file has a date when this file was created. So let's discuss these naming conventions that we can see on these files. Any log file that starts with msgtrk that indicates these are the transport service log files. The files that start with msgtrkmd, these files contain the emails those were delivered to the mailboxes by Mailbox Transport Delivery Service. And if you see files those start with msgtrkms, this file contains the emails those are sent from the mailboxes by the Mailbox Transport Submission Service. There is one more log file that is msgtrkma. This log file contains the emails those are approved or rejected by a moderator. In my Exchange organization, I do not have moderators, so that is why I do not see those log files here. And if you open any one of these files, you will see certain values like software, version, log type, date, and fields. Software will always show Microsoft Exchange Server. Version will give you the version number of your Exchange Server. Log type will tell you these are the message tracking logs. Date will be the date and time when this log file was created. And fields will contain all the fields of this message tracking log file. We will discuss all these fields in detail. Now, if you know how to analyze this file from here, you can go ahead and you can analyze this log file. But if you want, you can convert this file to a CSV file that makes it very easy to understand and analyze. So I will copy this log file and I will go to the host machine. And in host machine, I will save this file as CSV file. So let's open this file. In this file, you will see all the fields: software, version, log type, date, and fields. We will talk about all these fields one by one. Let me highlight these fields. So let's start with date time. This time is in UTC. Date and time will show you the date and time when an event was created on a particular email. Client IP will give you the IP address of your Exchange server. Client host name will give you the host name or the fully qualified domain name of your Exchange server. Server IP will also give you the details or the IP address of your Exchange server. And server host name will give you the host name or the fully qualified domain name of your Exchange server. Next is source context. Under source context field, you can see if content conversion was performed on the email or it was categorized. That information you will find under source context field. Next is connector ID. Under connector ID, you will see the name of the connector. It depends if you're analyzing the message tracking logs for the email that was sent from your Exchange organization, or this is the email that was received within your Exchange organization. So depending on the scenarios, you will see the name of the connector. Next is source. Source field will show you the components of the transport service. Those were responsible to process this email. Let's talk about these components one by one. SMTP value indicates that the email was either sent through SMTP send service or it was received by the SMTP receive service. Routing value indicates that routing resolution was performed on the email during categorization. Agent value indicates that whether transport agent has performed an action on this particular email. If you want to see the details what action is performed by the transport agents, you can go to custom data column. Under custom data column, you can see what action transport agent has taken. In these values, you can check if transport agent has taken any action on the email or not. S colon AMA stands for anti-malware agent. Under action, it says empty, so that means no action was taken on this particular email. So this email didn't have any sort of malware attached. So like this, you can analyze the custom data logs. Even you can check the latency as well, if there was any delay in delivering the email. Custom data column is very important when it comes to troubleshoot the email related issues. We will talk about this later. Let's go back to source column. So we have discussed SMTP. Now, depending on the scenarios, these values will differ. We received this email in Exchange server, so we can see only these sort of values in this message tracking log. But you can see other values as well, like resolver, that indicates that recipient resolution was performed by the categorizer. Then you can see mailbox rule value that indicates that there is a mailbox rule on the recipient's mailbox that took a particular action on that email. You can see approval that indicates that the email was approved or rejected by a moderator. So depending on the scenarios, these values will differ in message tracking logs. The next field in message tracking log is event ID. Under event ID, you will find the status of the email. Let me expand this column. So the first value is hard direct fail. This value indicates that whether a shadow email was created for this particular email or not. Shadow email is when you have shadow redundancy enabled in your Exchange server, it creates a copy of the email until the original email is processed. So for this email, no shadow copy was created because shadow redundancy is not enabled in this Exchange server. Receive value will indicate that email was received by the SMTP receive service. Next is resolve. Resolve value tells you that the email's recipient was resolved to a different email address during Active Directory lookup. If you go to the recipient address, here you can see, we can see two emails, bobross at office365concepts.com and bobross at o365techlabs.com. So this email was sent to bobross at office365concepts.com, but this email was resolved to bobross at o365techlabs.com. And the reason is this bobross user has office365concepts.com domain added as a secondary email address. Let's go to recipients and let's go to Bob Ross mailbox, email address. Here you can see the primary email address for Bob Ross is bobross at 0365techlabs.com. And the secondary email address is bobross at office365concepts.com. So the sender has sent email to the secondary email address of this user. Secondary email address is used to receive emails only. And if any email is sent to the secondary email address, you receive that email in your primary email address because you cannot configure a mailbox using your secondary email address. So that is why we can see this email was resolved to the primary email address. Next is agent info. This value indicates that if transport agents have taken any action on the email or not. And you can find the details under custom data field. Next is send. This indicates that the email was sent by the SMTP service to other transport services for the delivery of this email. Next column is internal message ID. This is a value that is assigned by the Exchange server that is processing this email. Next is message ID. Every email has a unique message ID. You can find this message ID value in email header as well. Admins can use the message ID to run message trace or to track the individual emails. And every message ID has a GUID and the fully qualified domain name of the server who has sent this email. Next field is network message ID. This is a unique message ID that remains same for all the copies of the email. For example, if email was sent to multiple members of the distribution group or the email was bifurcated, the network message ID will remain same. Then we have recipient address. Recipient address column will give you the email address of the recipients to whom this email was sent. Next is recipient status. Under recipient status, you can see if the recipient was successfully resolved or not. Total byte will give you the size of the email. This value is in bytes. And this value will include the attachment as well. That means if an email had attachment, so this particular column will give you the total size of the email. Next is recipient count. Under recipient count field, you can see the number of the recipients. In this particular email, the recipient was only one. So that is the reason we can see count one. Next is related recipient address. This field will show you if other recipients are also included within this email. Next is reference. This field gives you information if email was expanded, if email was throttled, or if email was transferred. So all this information you will find under this field. Next is message subject. Under message subject, you will see the subject of the email. Sender address will give you the email address of the sender who has sent this particular email. Return path will always be the sender email address or the mail from email address. Then we have message info. This field will show you the date and time when this email was received or it was sent from the Exchange server. And you can find some more information as well, like the fully qualified domain name of your Exchange server, if there was a latency in the email or not. And then we have directionality. Directionality will tell you if this email is an incoming email or the inbound email, or this email is an outbound email. If this is outbound email, you will see originating. Tenant ID will remain empty because this value is not used for the on-premise Exchange servers. Next is original client IP. Under this column, you will see the public IP address of the server from where this email is sent. And original server IP will give you the IP address of the email server that has processed this particular email. This IP address is my edge transport server IP address. Under custom data, you can find lots of information like transport agents, transport rules. If any transport rule is triggered on a particular email, you will find the GUID value of that transport rule. If DLP policy has taken any action on the email, you will find the GUID value of the DLP policy here. So this field will help you to troubleshoot the email flow. And then we have next is transport traffic type. This field will tell you the type of the content that was either received in your Exchange server or you have sent from your Exchange server. Log ID will give you the log number that is assigned to every message tracking log, and schema version will tell you the version of your Exchange server. So these are the fields within message tracking logs. Now let's go back to the message tracking logs folder and let's know more about these logs. Let's go to Microsoft Exchange Server version, transport roles, logs, and message tracking. By default, message tracking logs are enabled. But if you want, you can disable these message tracking logs and these files will not be generated in your Exchange server. You can even change the location of these message tracking logs. If you want, you can specify a different location where you want these logs to be stored. And by default, every message tracking log file size is 10 MB. So when a log file reaches this size, it gets purged and a new file is created for the logs. But if you want, you can increase or decrease this file size as per your business requirement. Even you can specify the size of the folder for message tracking folder, that what is the maximum size of the files in total you can have under this folder. The default value is 1000 MB, but if you want, you can modify this value using PowerShell commands. By default, these log files are retained for 30 days, and after 30 days, these files are purged. So as per your business requirement, you can either increase or decrease this value. So let's go to Exchange Management Shell, and let me show you how you can modify these values. If you want to check the default values, you can run get hyphen transport service pipe fl, or let's use select hyphen object, and we will look for message tracking log enabled. Then we will look for message tracking log max age, then message tracking, it's message tracking log max directory size, and we will look for message tracking log path. Let's press enter. So it says message tracking log enabled true. That means these logs are enabled in this Exchange server. Message tracking log max age is 30 days. That is by default. Message tracking log max directory size or the folder size is 1000 MB. And message tracking log path is the one that we just checked. C drive, program files, Microsoft Exchange Server version, transport roles, logs, and message tracking. If you want to disable message tracking logs in your mailbox server, for that you can run set hyphen transport service hyphen identity. Identity will be the host name of your mailbox server. In my case, it is Exchange. And then we will use a switch hyphen message tracking log enabled and dollar false. Now let's verify the values. And it says message tracking log enabled false. Same way, if you want to change the value for message tracking log max age, you can run same command set hyphen transport service hyphen identity, host name of your mailbox server, and then use value message tracking log max age, and then give it a value. For example, 45, and you can use the same format. So now these logs will be retained for 45 days. Let's verify the changes. So this value is changed. Same way you can change these values. If you want to modify the log files path from Exchange Admin Center, or if you want to enable or disable these values from Exchange Admin Center, you can go to servers, double click on your Exchange server, and then go to transport logs. Here, I just disabled message tracking logs. If you want, you can enable it from here, and you can change the path where you want to store these message tracking logs and click save. You can even track the emails from Exchange Admin Center under Mailflow. Under Mailflow, you will go to delivery reports, and under delivery reports, you can perform a search on a particular mailbox. Under mailbox to search, you can add a mailbox on which you want to perform search. For example, Bob Ross. Search for messages sent to. That means if you want to search for a recipient to whom Bob Ross has sent emails, you can click select users. Either you can select the internal user, or if you want to run this search for external recipient, you need to type the external email address in check names. For example, I'll use Gmail account and then click check names. Click OK and then click search. So this query will run and it will give you the results of the emails. You can double click on any email to check more details, and this will tell you whether the email was delivered, it was submitted, or it was pending. Next is search for messages received from. Here, if you want to search for the emails, those are received from a particular user to Bob Ross, or let's say an external user has sent emails to Bob Ross and you want to look for those emails. In that case, you can add the user and then click search. As of now, this test user 2 hasn't sent any email to Bob Ross, so that is the reason there is nothing in the output. Next is search for these words in the subject line. If you want to run this query, this search query basis on the subject of the email, you can type the value and let's click search. So here you can see basis on the subject of the email, we have received these many emails. So like this, you can perform search from delivery reports from Exchange Admin Center. And the third way to run message tracking is from Exchange Management Shell. In Exchange Management Shell, you can use a PowerShell command that is get-message tracking log. So you can run get-message tracking log. And next to this command, you need to use certain switches basis on your requirement. For example, if you want to run a search on the basis of dates from start date till end date, so you will use switch start and then you will mention a date. And the format for the date is first you will type month, then you will give it day, and then year. Same way we will use end date, same format, month, and let's say day will be 20 and year. Press enter. And this way you will get all the emails basis on the date range. You can use other parameters as well. For example, get hyphen message tracking logs. It's message tracking log. And let's say we want to run a search on the basis of sender. So sender will be, let's say, Bob Ross at 0365techlabs.com and press enter. So this will give you the details or the message tracking logs for the emails. Those are sent by Bob Ross. Now, let's say you want to search for the emails basis on the event ID. For example, if the email was delivered or it was failed, you can even run search for those emails as well. You can type get-message tracking log and event ID, and here type deliver. Press enter. So this command will give you all the emails those were delivered, those had status deliver. Same way, if you want to check emails those were failed, you can run get hyphen message tracking log hyphen event ID fail. So I do not have any email that was failed. So that is the reason this command returned no result. Now let's say you want this report in CSV file. So for that you will use pipe export hyphen CSV, and then we will give a path where we want to save this file. Let's say logs.csv and press enter. Let's go to C drive. So let's open this file. So this is the file that we just exported. If you want, you can copy this file on your host machine where you have Excel installed, and you can read this file in CSV format. So this is how you can analyze the message tracking logs in Exchange Server. In the next video, we will be talking about Open Relay and Anonymous Relay. We will discuss how to set up Anonymous Relay in Exchange Server and how to send emails using Anonymous Relay. So that is all for now. I will see you all in the next video. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Take care.